Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. On this channel, we talk about problems people face in their day-to-day lives. Let's start with a video. My wife, 32, and I, 31-year-old man, got married 4 years ago and together for 12. I met her at the local restaurant that she used to work at as a waitress and instantly fell head over heels in love with her. It was like her beauty enchanted me, and every time I looked at her, it felt like a breath of fresh air. So when I first asked her out and she said yes, it felt like a dream come true because she was all I ever wanted. And just like that, we started going out. Days turned into months and months turned into years, and we just seemed to grow more and more, but with that, responsibilities also grew. We both were in college when we first started seeing each other, and although I started working right after undergrad school, my wife went ahead to get her master's in education. After her graduation, she picked up a job as a teacher at the local high school, teaching English, and I continued to work my corporate job. With promotions, training programs, and such, I was able to climb the corporate ladder and land a position with a high pay and amazing benefits. Although this job was highly time-consuming, I liked what I did and I believed I had my wife's support throughout. Even though our finances were separated, I made sure to pay for most of our necessities, as I wanted my wife to live comfortably. With separate finances, I barely had an idea about her spendings because I had never bothered to go through them. I trusted her and knew that she had the right to use her money however she pleased. However, I first felt a sense of suspicion when I stumbled across her bank statements while looking through our documents. I was surprised to see that she was transferring about $2,000 every month to a bank account I couldn't recognize. This doubt grew from the fact that there was no one that could possibly need financial help, let alone for months on end, but I brushed it off, thinking with our busy schedules, I believe we still made ample time for each other to communicate and talk, especially during the weekends when we both had off. We would constantly plan date nights, trips, vacations, and such. During one of the dates my wife and I had planned, we walked into a gas station on our way back to buy some snacks for a movie night. There, my wife saw a lottery ticket and decided to buy one as a joke. I even remember her joking about how our next vacation would be on her if she won. We laughed and just moved on. A couple of weeks passed. Fast forward to today, and guess what? She won the lottery. It was quite shocking and almost felt random as we picked up the ticket with no intention of even checking the results, but hey, I wasn't complaining. When I found out that she'd won, I was on the phone with her. I started cheering for my wife and she seemed to be super happy too, or so I thought. I kept the call short as I had to run for meetings, so I told her I'd see her whenever I got home from work, and she agreed, so the day passed by quickly and I rushed home to see my wife. I even picked up a bottle of her favorite wine to celebrate, but when I got there was no sign of her in the living room where she usually sits to watch TV, so I roam around the house to look for her and find in the bedroom packing her bags. This was out of nowhere. I tried inquiring about what was happening. She did not respond and only kept muttering, "I'm sorry," as she continued stuffing her clothes into her bag. I was honestly very confused because this was the last thing I expected. When she was done packing, all she could say was, "I can't do this anymore. Please do not contact me unless I initiate," before leaving. I kept pleading for her to tell me what's wrong, but I heard nothing from her. I started feeling lightheaded and my heart rate increased. I had enough sense to figure that she did not just leave for some emergency, but she was genuinely leaving me. I decided to leave the house immediately and go to my friend's place before I did something stupid, and this is where I'm writing from now. I'm completely confused and blindsided. I don't think I have the guts to tell anyone this because what will I even tell these people if they ask me what happened? I'm slowly starting to feel like this is all my fault. Is it because I was too busy with work? Will I be the a-hole if I try to contact the school she works at to check up on her? Any advice would be much appreciated. Hi all. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for the support and advice. I realized I needed to talk to my wife to come to a conclusion about this relationship, but before that, I needed to tell my family what was going on. So I called my older brother, 35. Let's call him David for the sake of the story. I called David and told him that I needed to meet him as soon as possible. He lives pretty close to my friend's place, so he said he would drive by after work. When we met, I sat him down and told him about the situation. He was in shock and denial because he's known my wife from when we met in university, and she had always been an amazing sister-in-law to him. David suggested that he could get his wife to talk to mine instead of me approaching her. My wife and my sister-in-law were very close. They would spend time with each other every once in a while, so it was a good idea. I took a couple of days off from work as I knew I wouldn't be able to focus. Thankfully, my boss was very understanding of it and gave me the time off. David called me the next morning informing me that his wife was able to get in contact with mine, although not a lot came out of it. He told me that my wife was very brief, formal, and quiet throughout the conversation. That was very unlike her, as she was usually a very chatty person. David revealed that at some point of the conversation, my wife indirectly told my sister-in-law to stay out of our relationship matters. This all was very shocking and sudden, as my wife was someone who claimed that communication was key. I thanked David and his wife for trying and hung up. A week passed, and today my wife decided to reach out to me. She called me to tell me that she was finally ready to talk, but we needed to meet at a public place. She was short and direct with her words and sounded fairly normal, unlike me. It was hurtful to see her so cold, but I agreed to meet her because I was desperate for closure. But little did I know that was far from what I was going to receive. From that meeting, I was hoping that this would just be some sort of sick prank or even a misunderstanding maybe, and that I could just hold my wife I once knew in my arms and again like I used to. When I got to the cafe, she looked just like the day she left. She had a very guilty look on her face, as if she knew she had messed up. We shared a couple of moments of silence. This silence felt different. It wasn't the same as it used to be. What my wife did next just proved to me that things have changed between us, and for the worse. She took out an envelope from her bag and placed it on the table as I opened it. She went on about how I could have everything and she wouldn't protest a divorce for anything. Her cold gaze pierced through me as I realized I was being served. I asked her why she was doing this to me. I told her I did not want anything out of this divorce, but answered. She just calmly replied that it wasn't working out. It hasn't been for a while now. I asked her why she couldn't communicate that to me. She seemed very happy before the lottery. This wasn't my best moment, and I knew I shouldn't have said this, but I asked her if she let money get to her head this bad. According to her, I'm only interested in my career and money. I'm just unable to comprehend how she, the same woman I loved for the past 10 years, switched in the matter of 10 days. I was unable to digest the fact that the woman I decided to spend all my life with put all my concern and care onto just deciding to get up and leave. This was the person I had been sharing all my life with. She continued to spew out more of her twisted version of events as I just got up and left with the papers because I could not hear any more of her. I think this is going to be my final update. After meeting my wife, I spent the next few days finding an apartment to move out. I did not want to live with my friend any longer and did not have it in me to live in the same house that I had lived with my wife in, with the dreams of an amazing future. I still have the divorce papers, which I had previously set aside, but I plan to sign them off by tomorrow when I see my lawyer. Now, onto the update. The truth behind my wife and her sudden departure unraveled as my brother called me to say that he saw my wife walking out of the apartment opposite to the park he took my niece to play in. The secretary of that apartment was a friend of my brother's, so he rang him up to make an inquiry and was informed that someone had recently moved into the apartment of Richard. For some background about Richard used to be a close friend of my wife when they used to work together in the same high school as my wife currently does, before he got fired. Him and my wife stayed in contact, and I would meet him every once in a while during dinner. Ever since being fired 4 years ago, Richard hasn't gotten a job. My heart is in pieces as I write this. The woman I loved so much, did so much for, left me for a man who lived off his parents' retirement savings. But with this, I also know that I've gotten all the answers I need, and I definitely deserve better. Today, I received a call from my mother-in-law. I hadn't contacted any of my wife's side of the family regarding the situation in full hopes that they either wouldn't believe me or my wife would have spread lies about me, but surprisingly, she came clean to her family about her affair in hopes that they would accept her true love. My mother-in-law apologized profusely on behalf of my ex as she informed me that every single one of her family members decided to disown her unless she would get back with me. She talked about how much of a great couple she thought we were, how she was so proud that her daughter found someone like me as a life partner. She wanted us to reconsider things and maybe now or in the future. I told her that there was never going to be a possibility of that happening, as my trust in her was completely broken and gone. I could hear the disappointment in her mother's voice as she said that she understood, and hung up. I received calls from her brother and sister showing the same sentiment. Her family was filled with amazing, honest, and kind people. I can feel the disappointment and guilt in their voices. It felt much more real than my wife. I've already moved into my new apartment with the help of my friends, and this is the only change I am currently enjoying. I often hang out with my family and friends and have started to spend my weekends going on trips by myself. Although I miss my wife terribly at times, I believe that I am a well-established person who is loyal and does not need to make compromises and stay with someone simply because I was in love with someone. I've started therapy and also realized that I had been drowning myself too much into my work, so I've been looking for a position in my company with less working hours, as I believe this is the least I owe to myself. I have supportive and loving friends and family who will stand by me. Hopefully with time, I can completely move on with this chapter of my life. Thank you so much for reading. Yikes! The OP's wife is a wreck. She truly thought that she would have her fairy tale love story after leaving OP and everyone would cheer for her. You deserve so much better. Although a bit late, thankfully OP isn't with the mess of a person like her anymore. NTA, you handled this situation perfectly. NTA, OP's wife can go have fun with the deadbeat affair partner of hers. This mess of a relationship is going to crash down in no time when she realizes that he's only in it for the money and she's being used as a bank account like he uses his parents. I'm very glad that you have supportive friends and family. You deserve more people like that around you instead of a shameless, cheating person. Good luck, OP. My wife and I have 3 kids, 19-year-old girl, 15-year-old boy, and a 12-year-old girl. Our 19-year-old Kate graduated from high school last year, but is still living at home. Despite getting into a few different colleges, she declined to attend as she wasn't sure she wanted to go to college and wanted a break from school. We were okay with this, but gave her some rules if she wanted to live at home. These were pretty basic rules. She had to work at least 30 hours a week and continue to help around the house. I wanted her to pay a token rent, which we would put away and give back to her when she moves out. But my wife disagreed as she wanted Kate to learn to save money on her own. Kate has struggled with anxiety for the past few years and has been in therapy since her junior year of high school. She is also on medication. She also, like many 19-year-olds, struggles with impulse control. This usually manifests in her spending habits. She will spend money as soon as she gets it. And she spends it on, in my opinion, things that she doesn't always need. Her room is full of clothes that she will wear maybe once or twice. Jewelry, makeup, salon and spa trips, etc. We've had many talks with her about being better at saving money, but it always ends up in a fight about it being her money and she can do with it what she wants. Which I don't necessarily disagree with, but if she's still living at home and being fed and housed by us for free, I feel like we get at least some say in how much she saves. She saved less than $1,000. This past weekend, Kate came home one day with bright rainbow hair. My son asked her how much it cost, and Kate said it was $300. I asked Kate if she seriously spent $300 on her hair, and she said yes. I told her that that was a ridiculous amount of money for something like that, and she said it makes her feel good, and it's important for her mental health. I told her that if she can afford to spend $300 on her hair, then she can afford to pay us rent. She immediately got defensive and reiterated that it is her money and she will spend it how she wants. She said I don't understand why this is important to her and that she hates that I'm so controlling over what she does. I told her that as long as she's still living with us, I have a right to be critical of choices she makes. She called me an a-hole and stormed off to her room and slammed the door. My wife told me that I need to be more supportive of Kate and her choices, especially in regards to money. I told her that I'm not going to continue to let her live here for free if she's going to spend money so recklessly. My wife said that Kate needs to learn this on her own, but I said that she's had over a year to learn and she still spends money just as fast as she earns it. I told her that we need to have a conversation about Kate continuing to live with us because we have another kid to support, and Kate is an adult and should be contributing something to the house if she's going to stay here. NTA, I would ask your wife how she will learn to be responsible with money if she never has to be responsible with money. I have 3 children, 23 male, 20 female, and 17 female, and I've always made it clear that when they graduate from high school, they can stay living at home. If they go to college or trade school, they will live here for free, but if they don't go to school, they need to get a job and pay some room and board. I pay for their food and household expenses and even their gas. As I explained to my daughter after she finished her associate degree and got her first full-time job, I wasn't charging her because I need the money, but because she needs to learn how to budget her money and be prepared when the time comes for her to move out on her own. If she never has any expenses and then moves out and suddenly has to pay for everything, she'll not be prepared. My job as a parent is to prepare her to be a responsible, independent adult.